Hey, Sean.
Hey, Rich. Erd.
Guess what?
What?
We have found a new home on the internet, a home just for us. It was built just for us, and it's made just for us.
Where's that?
That would be the Pod Brothers Network.
Pod Brothers Network. We're bringing the bromance to Pod Bros.
Yes. Oh, see, I see what you did there. You did a bros and bro. Oh my God. Oh, so much.
It's meant for us.
I'm just saying, like, how can you not like a network with other great shows like Dave's Nerd Compendium, Pencil and Ink Reviews, and The Accidental Wrestling Fan? This is the peanut butter to our chocolate.
It is, and they got like Players versus Podcasts and the Guy Huddle. I mean, what more can you ask for?
So we got to tell everybody, check us out on all our regular venues as well as our new home on Pod Brothers.
Pod Bros, the best podcast site on the internet.
Well, it is now. What's up, everybody? I'm Richard.
And I'm Sean.
And we're speaking the language of bromance. See, if you elongate it, then it sounds more
Sophisticated.
Yeah, sophisticated. We're highfalutin over here.
Welcome to tonight's episode of Language of Bromance.
Highfalutin. My Midwest is coming out.
So I wanna harken back to the early days of Language of Bromance, which is was only a couple months, but. So in one of our first episodes, we talked about the great Jane Goodall, and we all know, she watched some chimpanzees. She kind of became part of their family and their world. Famous for
What's a group of chimpanzees called?
Are
they a family?
I would assume so.
I mean, humans are a family. You don't call them like a murder of chimpanzees, unless they're those chimps from 28 Days Later.
The crazy chimps.
Those are, or Planet of the Apes.
Damn dirty apes. Have you seen the new Planet of the Apes?
No.
Okay.
No.
It's good. It's really good.
Is it?
But so Jane Goodall, I don't know. I would assume we'll call them families.
Right.
But like everything you hear about her, like it's all real good, feel good story stuff. Like the chimpanzees accepted her, and she did all these things to help them out. But I want to blow your mind, and this just kind of is like very interesting because you think of just this group of animals doing this, but there's like all this undocumented type of stuff that's going on probably. But
okay,
just the title of this, Gombe is where this was located, but this is the Gombe Chimpanzee War.
There's a war?
There was a war between two factions of chimpanzees.
Is this like the Jets and the Sharks? This is like it's like West Side Story, but with chimps.
I think it's like it's not as fun, and I don't think you like sit there. I don't think they're
Oh, that'd be so awesome.
That would be awesome. This seems more horrifying.
Well, you can't snap fingers because they don't have opposable thumbs.
I thought chimpanzees did. I thought
that's what separates us from the apes.
Oh, maybe.
That's why we run the show. That's why we have buildings and they live in the jungle.
Well, I thought it was because we had better brains. We could think things out better. We do gooders. We do wells.
We speak good English. Ishes.
So this Gombe Chimpanzee War, it's also known as the 4-Year War of Gombe. It lasted from 1974 to 1978, and it was a conflict between two communities of chimpanzees in the Gombe Stream National Park in Tanzania. So the gist of this is Jane Goodall was watching these chimpanzees, and she kind of saw this. It started out as one group, but then it started slowly splitting into two, and she could kind of see the social rift. So there's two groups.
Were they fighting over her?
Well, that's interesting is later in the story they kind of say how a lot of people were saying that the reason this happened was because of their feeding station. Like they're essentially fighting over that food.
Okay.
But then other people said that this has actually happened in the wild.
So it's kind of that effect of I can't think of what the effect is, but the effect where by viewing the experiment you taint the experiment in
Say
a
that
way.
again. What's that?
I was saying that instead of like it's the effect of by viewing the experiment you taint the experiment.
Yeah, essentially.
Okay.
But there's people who've said no, this has happened I don't know how they've proven it, but they said this type of events have happened in other areas where there aren't like people around.
Ooh.
But there's two groups. There's the Kama chimpanzees, Kahama, and the Kazakela, Kasakela chimpanzees.
I think it works better if we call them the Jets and the Sharks.
Okay, so the Jets, the Kamas, we'll call them the Jets.
Okay.
It consisted of 6 males and 3 females.
All right.
The Sharks, the Kazakala chimpanzees, had 8 males and 12 females, so they outnumbered them by a lot.
Sharks are huge.
Yeah, sharks were enormous. Of course, the bastards of the sea. So
You leave your bias out of this. We're being scientific here.
So she said she noted that there's a social rift, and they kind of split into 2 groups, and one took like the north and one took the south. And like when I first read this, I didn't see the numbers, but when you think of like a 4-year war, like I would think like these would just be massive numbers of chimpanzees.
Yeah, yeah.
So the war.
You say the word war, and you're thinking like you're like I'm imagining like armies of chimps.
Yeah, and this is more of like what's the 2 families that you always hear about in the South?
The Hatfields and the McCoys.
Yeah, it kind of seems like this.
Or it could be like the 2 families in Shakespeare, the Capulets and the Montagues.
Yeah. Is that where Shakespeare got it from? Is this event
From the Chimps? It's from the 4-year War of Chimps.
Yeah, I think so. I think I read that on the internet. So the war. So the first outbreak of violence occurred on January 7th, 1974. So like, I want to see in your mind right now, like, what do you think like the violence of this was? Do you think it was just like chimps fighting, or what do you like?
Like
how
that's
bad?
what I'm picturing. I'm picturing just like like one chimp sees another chimp, and then they realize they're like from opposite gangs, and so then they like in my head. Well, okay, what actually happened is probably way different. But I'm sure what probably happened is they just, hit at each other. In my head, I'm picturing that video, Michael Jackson's Beat It, where they, like, grab arms and then they draw knives.
Okay.
Where they're, and then Michael Jackson steps in and he, like, puts his hands in between them.
Do 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 do.
Yeah.
You imagining that?
It doesn't matter who's wrong or right.
So Jane Goodall's Michael Jackson. This just coming in between them and
Jane
stopping
Goodall
them.
is the Michael Jackson of this chimp fight.
Well, I'm sure she wishes that is what happened, but unfortunately it's not. So the first outbreak of violence occurred on January 7th of 1974
All right.
when a party of 6 adult shark male attacked and killed Gotti, a young jet male who had been feeding in a tree. So this was the first time that any of the chimpanzees have been seen to deliberately kill another chimp. So the first action, 6 males from the sharks jump on top of a young jet and just kills him.
Whoa! So they just ganged him.
Yeah, they just killed him. So
it was like a swing by beating.
It was a drive-by bananaing.
Right.
Is that bad? Is that do chimpanzees eat bananas?
I don't know. I'm sure. I don't know. I don't think that's like biased or anything by assuming they do. Let's assume they do.
Okay. So let's say this was over bananas. It was
There
over
you
the
go.
banana trade because it's once they get those kids
The
hooked on those
banana deal
bananas.
gone bad.
So over the next 4 years, all 6 of the adult male members of the Jets had been killed by the sharks.
The sharks have just like taken over. They got the bigger family, and they've been knocking out Jets one by one.
One by one over 4 years. So just dwindling that family down to nothing but females. This is the really messed up part.
Okay.
So of the female Jets, 1 was killed.
All right.
So like that's terrible. 2 went missing.
They went
3 of them
missing.
went missing, so she doesn't know what happened to them. So I'm assuming they fall into the category of getting killed or this next thing, which this next thing really seemed like you talk about how humans are terrible. This seems just as bad. 3 of the females were beaten, raped, and kidnapped by the sharks.
Wow.
Yeah. So like,
Did they leave ransom for the other sharks or for the other Jets?
Maybe that the ransom for bananas. What probably happened is
oog, 3 bananas.
One of the Jets, had too many bananas. He's like, listen, it's been a rough month. I just need a few bananas now. We'll pay you back double.
Right.
And the shark's like, all right, we'll give you a little bit here, and slowly, just because like, listen,
3 bananas over the vig.
We killed your son. What more proof do you want?
Right.
Horse head in the bed.
Oh yeah. Like one of the jet sharks, one of the jet sharks, one of the jet monkeys wakes up and like like has a palm leaf over him and he moves the palm.
It's a
leaf
giraffe
and there's
head.
a horse's head.
No, it's a giraffe head.
It's a giraffe head.
So the sharks end up like destroying this whole group.
Yeah, sounds
and
like.
I guess taking some of the females for their own.
It wasn't a war, it was a massacre.
Yeah, I mean, really, and I think they said, let me look at the top. There's only one loss for the sharks. One of their chimpanzees was killed. I'm not sure if it was a male or female. It really doesn't say.
So that makes the sharks like the Reavers in Firefly.
Yeah, essentially because they're all the same group, and they're like, okay, we're going to create this peaceful, utopian area, and the other group kind of goes off on their own, and the ones freak out and start killing everybody.
Yeah.
So let's see. So the sharks, they've destroyed this whole group. So they had the north, so they move into the south, and I guess this kind of shows their intelligence, because as they move further south, and this is probably how the one got killed. They bumped up to another territory of another group of chimpanzees.
Okay.
And they had a few violent skirmishes, but I think they quickly realized that they weren't going to beat these group of chimpanzees. I don't know if there was more or what there was, so they end up moving back to their own territory.
Huh. So after the culmination of this war basically results in nothing.
Pretty much, yeah. It's kind of like when I was in history class and they talked about the Korean War.
Yeah.
North Korea pushed really far into South Korea, then the U.S. went in and pushed really, really far to North Korea, and they end up settling back to where the exact same line was.
The 37th parallel.
Yep. So, kind of going on further, this is kind of interesting, too, where they talk about the effects of this on Jane. So, the outbreak of the war, it said, came as like a disturbing shock, and I'm just finding this on Wikipedia, so it's nothing crazy.
Sure.
She had, basically she thought that chimpanzees were, a lot nicer than humans, because... And that's what kind of blew my mind, because whenever you hear about the whole Jane Goodall thing, the whole
you're
idea...
thinking she's like hanging out with nice monkeys and like picking fleas out. She's like when they have like the row of apes like in line like digging through each other's hair. Like you imagine Jane Goodall like sitting in one of those spots.
Yeah. They come over and give her a banana, and then they give her 2 bananas, and then one of them starts kind of like holding out his hand like, you need to start paying up.
Right. Yeah. Like, bananas ain't free, bitch.
But I guess this really fucked her up, because like this was the first time that she observed like cannibalism inside the chimpanzee world. So this was kind of the first adventure to the dark side. And this next quote she was kind of, I think this is an excerpt from her book.
Okay.
It says, for several years I struggled to come to terms with this new knowledge. Often when I woke at night, horrific pictures sprang unbidden to my mind. Satan, which was one of the apes, cupped his hand below Sniff's chin to drink the blood that welled from a great wound on his face. Old Randolph, usually so benign, standing upright to hurl a 4-pound rock at Gotti's prostrate body. Jodeo tearing a strip of skin from Day's thigh. Figan charging and hitting again and again the stricken, quivering body of Goliath, one of his childhood heroes.
Wow.
Pretty fucked up, huh?
No shit.
Like, I saw this, it's just a today I learned on Reddit, and I was like, okay, chimpanzee war, what's this going to be about? I assumed it was nothing like this. But then it just goes into the more detail of, like, some scientists accused it was her fault, but there's been other research that says, no, this happens a lot in chimpanzee societies.
Yeah, because it's not like they were. I don't think it's not that they were fighting over her. They were fighting over turf. It was a turf war.
Yeah,
it was the Crips and the Bloods. That's what it was.
But it's interesting that they were one. Like they were one group, and then they broke off, and then they decided that breaking off wasn't enough. They had to destroy this whole.
I think that is a parable of us as human beings. That what we're together, but it's us. We keep ourselves apart.
Yep,
and that's why we need to come together. Jets and the Sharks.
The more you know.
Come together.
But I remember this kind of reminded me back in college, like, and you hear this from a lot of people. They talk about, like, especially, we won't go into a great argument over it, but like people that hunt and how animals are more peaceful than humans, and you read stories like this, and I think somebody was saying like how like bears and stuff don't want to attack humans. They just want to, they just want to, you know, be left alone to their own devices. But it's like, you know
Right.
what?
And they don't want people like running up on them trying to hug them.
Well,
either.
yeah. Hey, bear!
I'm your friend.
But I said in class, like I kind of raised my hand, like, like in the bear community, if another bear runs up and attacks another bear, we look at that and say, huh, that's nature. If a human runs up on another human and tries to eat him, we're like, that dude's fucked up.
Right. Yeah, I wonder, when did cannibalism become faux pas?
I don't know.
I would say after like the last like big record of cannibalism was like what? Ed Gein, the Donner Party.
I mean,
They do say it makes you crazy though.
Really?
Like cannibalism like makes you crazy.
Do you
Like
think
people that eat like people that are cannibals, you see in like the West, like Southeast Asia and stuff like that, Indonesia, West, countries where cannibalism might be found. They actually say it develops a certain type of insanity.
Do you think it's the chemicals from like eating human flesh, or do you think it's like
that's what I think
remorse?
it is. I think it's rule number 1: you don't eat your own kind. Because I mean, look at like Mad Cow. Like Mad Cow developed because they were grinding up cows to feed to other cows.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, like that's how Mad Cow developed. Mad Cow, in big scare in the 90s, where cows were developing like basically a brain disease that was tainting the meat, and one of the reasons that they say happened is because cows that were not butchered or whatever were ground into meat, and then that meat was fed to the other cows, to help kind of lower the cost of the feed.
Gotcha. So just kind of using all the leftovers that they could.
Right. So cows were eating other cows, and they're saying that some say that led to this development of mad cow disease in Britain.
Which is interesting. There's a fast food restaurant here called Mad Cow Burgers, and I'm not gonna lie, the burgers are pretty amazing.
Yeah. Also, it's in deer they have what they call like white-tailed deer, what they call CWD. It stands for chronic wasting disease. And some say that the reason that some of these deer are developing this disease is because they're eating dead deer that they find in the woods.
Oh wow. Well, I know they talk around the area we're from that there's just like a ton of deer right now. I recently heard that there are more white-tailed deer now than there were when Columbus first got to America.
That's crazy.
They say it's just from like the money going into conservation and the plethora of corn like they can eat. They're basically farm animals now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you see them all over the roads, and how many deer have you hit in your lifetime?
I've actually never hit any. I've been in 2 vehicles that have hit deer, though. Well, 3. All 3 times my dad was driving. 2, he tore up the vehicle pretty bad, and the third was a baby fawn. And so it was at night, and my dad hit the brake because the mom ran across.
I would just like to point out that you just laughed at the killing of a child.
No, it didn't die.
Like you're like, oh, so they hit a baby deer.
There's a good punchline because
sick,
it's something my
bastard.
dad said.
All right.
So the mom runs across and he slams on the brakes, and I think they either woke me up or maybe I was half awake, and I see the little baby one running across, and my dad stops just enough to you hear a bump, and he gets out, and I didn't know where the deer went, and so I look underneath the truck and I'm looking around for the baby deer, like, oh my God, did we kill it? And Dad's checking the truck, and I look at him and I'm like, oh man, poor deer. Dad's like, poor deer, look at my truck.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, sorry. Compassion.
Males get mean. I had one almost like hit my car and did it on purpose. I was flying down the highway. I was going like 55. I don't remember, whatever. And I didn't even see this thing until it was like it was a buck, and I didn't see it until it was right almost like right there, like about to like ram the side of my car. So I plow the gas down and speed past it, and I could hear its antlers scrape along my tail light.
How creepy was that?
That I almost got rammed by a deer.
No, the scraping of it across the back of the car.
I didn't honestly. I heard it and I thought maybe it actually hit. So I kept going for a little bit because I wasn't gonna like just stop because then I'm thinking this thing's gonna fucking charge me if I get out of the car and try and look at the back. But yeah, apparently because I could see it, there was just like this big scratch mark on my back brake light where it had like just nicked me.
The closest I've ever come to hitting a deer, like it ran out in front of me. It was on a gravel road, so I was going pretty slow. And instead of like crossing the street, it turned and started running like in front of me, so it was going the direction I was. So I got to chase it for like half a mile because it couldn't just figure out that it needed to get off the road.
Yeah, there was another one I hit, and I think I was going like maybe 20, 25. I nailed this thing like dead on, and it went back, and I think it like somersaulted on the street like probably twice, and then just stood up and walked off.
Oh wow!
And then I get out and look at my car, and my like my front passenger side is all fucked up, and I'm like, and you just got up and walked away. I was like, fuck
thanks,
you, deer.
Jerk.
Fuck you, deer.
Just looks at you and takes a deuce, and
It did. Stared right at me.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like you're talking about that one that like almost attacked your car. Like I've heard of deer, like they see the reflection in like windows or sliding glass doors, and they charge and crash through them. So like you're sitting there watching TV, and all of a sudden you have this big buck come crashing through your window, and it doesn't know how to get out, so it's even more freaked out. So now you got this huge ass deer in your house.
I've had that happen with an eagle.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know if it saw a mouse or something. I actually wasn't home. I got this phone call, and no, it wasn't an eagle. It was a hawk. And I get this phone call, and it's my wife, and she's like, "I need you to come home. There's a hawk in the house."
You're like, "Is that code?"
I'm like, "Do you want to have sex? Is that what you're saying?" And she's like, "No, there's a hawk in the house." Apparently, I don't know if the way hawks work is, they fly around. They usually like circle something like a vulture, and then they finally like do this like dive and then grab stuff. Well, I don't know if it saw a reflection of something in a window or something like that. I have no idea. But my wife was sitting in the living room. Oh, no, she was sitting in the bedroom, and she hears this giant crash in the kitchen. And so she goes into the kitchen, and she sees that the window's broken, and there's this lump. There's broken glass all over the kitchen, the countertop, the kitchen floor, everywhere. And there's this lump sitting underneath the kitchen table. And she's kind of looking at, and all of a sudden this lump stands on two legs and then turns to look at her and does that little like, how like owls do sometimes where they kind of like cock their head to the side.
It's like, what are you doing here?
It like whips its head around to look right at her and then cocks its head to the side. And Amanda's like, ah! And slams the door and then calls me. Apparently, this thing had crashed through, like the window was completely closed. So this thing had crashed through a wire screen, a pane of glass for the storm window, then another pane of glass for the actual window.
God.
And had landed, then hit the kitchen floor and skidded underneath the table.
So it had knocked itself unconscious until Amanda walked in there and saw it?
Apparently. Or it was just laying there for a second like, Jesus!
It's like, it would have made it even better if like she looks out the window and there's like 4 more hawks just like sitting on the tree.
I'm just saying, that thing had to be fucking booking it to crash through all that and be fine.
Well, I mean, have you ever seen like an actual bald eagle like up close?
No, not up close.
Those fuckers are huge. Like you look at like a buzzard and they look really big. I'm pretty sure bald eagles are like they have like twice the wingspan. When we went home last weekend. That's what she said. When we were going home last weekend, there's a field and there's all these buzzards hanging around this dead thing. And there's a bald eagle just hanging out. It's like, yeah, I'm letting you guys eat this stuff. You know, if I didn't want to, I'd probably kill all of you, then fly off.
Right.
And not even eat what's here.
Because I'm a fucking eagle. America, bitch. America. Fucking, So we had to end up throwing, we got a comforter and ended up throwing a comforter over the eagle or the hawk and then dragging this comforter wrapped up outside and then let it go.
You know, you fucked up there. You should have caught it and trained it, and you could have been the Beastmaster. You could have had 2 ferrets in your pocket.
Such an opportunity wasted. Because this thing was a badass bird to crash through all that and be like, fuck these. It's like shaking glass of itself. Like, Jesus fucking Christ, that was crazy.
Is that my blood? I don't fucking care.
I don't fucking care. Fuck you.
He was probably eyeing Amanda when she walked in there.
Probably was. It was probably like, I crashed through your house and now I'm going to fuck your woman.
You came home. Like, you're not going to disrespect me in my home. He's like,
another phone call and be like, honey, this isn't Amanda. Who's this? This is the hawk. Is that code?
It's like, how'd you dial? Like, you don't even have fingers.
Don't worry about it.
It's like, I think, Amanda, you better get out of the house.
and then I come home, and then she's gone, and all that's left is a ransom note from the hawk. And I'm like, no, I've seen what animals do.
What,
I read about it. Chimps, man. Fucking see. This I think the underlying theme of our podcast should be nature wants to kill you.
Yeah, pretty much. It wants to kill you or have sex with you.
Right.
Or both.
Watch out for death and or rape. I think those are I think that's always good advice to live by.
So, I don't know if this is a good segue, but, you know, why not? So, yesterday, I'm pretty sure I found out if I was ever going to be gay, my number one reason why I would be gay.
I was letting that sink in with the audience for a moment.
So, Tiffany and I were doing housework, and I was vacuuming, and we just got this vacuum like maybe 3 or 4 months ago. And
were you in an apron?
Well, I got a stain on my apron. So
was there a pearl necklace involved?
Tiffany, I didn't know you'd be home so early. So I'm vacuuming. I'm like, this thing isn't sucking very well. So I flip it upside down to look at the spinning part of the vacuum.
All right.
So they have those bristles?
Yes.
The whole thing looked like one big bristle. And I don't know if I've ever really looked at the bottom of it. So I'm like, that seems weird. And so I start like moving it with my finger. The whole thing had probably a good, 2 or 3 centimeters worth of Tiffany's hair wrapped around the bristle part.
How do you know it was Tiffany's hair? Maybe it was your hair.
Well, I guess it could have been technically. Might not, but my hair is not that long anymore.
This is true.
It's never really been that long.
No, it hasn't. I was playing devil's advocate. It probably was her hair. So you're saying she's shedding? She's shedding all over the place.
Well, I'm like, she's like apologizing the whole time as she's cutting it with scissors. I mean, it took a good like 15, 20 minutes of us cutting this to get it out. And just like this bushel of, fur that we vacuumed up in our house that is probably just all over this place. Which the other part of this, and I don't know if you have to deal with this as much, but like you go and take a shower and like the drain like isn't draining real well, and you're like, what the hell's going on? And like you look down in there and you like kind of start digging around and you pull out this big like Wookiee snot rag. And you're just like, what
except
the
I don't
fuck?
except I can't I can't say anything because usually a lot of it's mine.
I forgot about your long hair.
I do. I have shoulder length hair, so honey, what the like her hair is actually shorter than mine actually right now. Like what the fuck is
So it's the reverse of that. It's Amanda yelling at you.
Right.
God damn it, Richard.
Are you shedding all over the place? My daughter has way longer hair though, so usually I just take it out on her.
It's like, listen, I brush every day. Look at this nice hair.
I have a mane. I have a beautiful mane. Like, what do you have? What do you have?
Who you calling? It's the Hawk. That son of a bitch.
Tell that bastard I want my comforter back.
Fucking birds.
Fucking birds. So you spent 15 minutes cutting out. I like the fact that you refer to her hair as fur. I'm sure she appreciates that.
Well, whatever. But it's just this ball of fur of her hair that I had to keep taking back over to the trash can because I don't know, like for some reason I can deal with it better when it was like in the shower because I think it's just because like I feel clean afterwards because like once I get that out and
I'm
throw it away,
getting clean, so
yeah,
like it's like you're right next to the wash station.
yeah, getting decontaminated. But with this, it's just like this just massive amount of hair in this. And I guess the other thing that's frustrating is like we've been vacuuming a lot lately. And it's like all that vacuum we've done really hasn't done shit just because this vacuum is full of hair. So it can't really even do anything. So just like all this wasted time.
All this wasted time because of her fucking fur.
But then she's like, "Do you want me to cut my hair?" And I said, "No."
No. I this is how we know that Tiffany's not in the room because you're referring to it as fur.
And she doesn't listen to the podcast.
Aw. That's okay. I don't think Amanda listens either.
Yeah. It is pretty awesome feeling though every now and then like usually once I put it out I'll play it just to make sure it sounds good.
Yeah.
And she'll be listening to it and she'll laugh. The other day, I can't remember what episode it was, but I was going to go back into the garage to grab something. I was going to take my phone. She's like, "No, leave it. I want to hear what happens next."
Oh.
I was like, you can subscribe to this.
Yeah, you could actually like give us an extra download. Help out a little, maybe.
She's like, no.
At
That's too much work.
At first, I was like, I need you to start downloading episodes. I was like, I want you. I told the man, I was like, I want everybody in this family download episodes. I was like, whatever device we got, I was like, I want some episodes going on it. And it worked for the first one, and then it just kind of died off. I appreciate it, but it kind of tapered off, and then it just wasn't. Everybody, I was like, "Oh, guys, did you guys download an episode?" They're like, "No, we got kind of busy," and I'm like, "What the heck? What the heck?" BS.
So you had everybody downloading?
I had everybody downloading, and then it kind of tapered off. And I was like, "Did everybody download the new episode?" And everybody's like, "No."
It's like, are you still doing that?
And I'm like, "Oh, shit.
Why don't you support me?
No one supports anything I do.
It's just a download. Just listen to the first 10 minutes.
I think the only one that the only person I have in the house that listens anymore is my oldest daughter. Because every now and then she'll just kind of like, she'll be like, "What is Sean's deal with sharks?" Or it'll just be like this random comment out of nowhere.
Does it catch you off guard? You're like, what are you talking to Sean for?
It does. For the first second, I'm like, "Oh shit." Then I'm like, "Oh wait, no, she got it from the podcast." I'm like, "Wait, did I say anything on the podcast that I shouldn't have said?"
Probably everything.
It's usually everything.
At least you haven't got too graphic yet. Just
waiting for come on, episode. I don't know. We're waiting for episode 50, maybe episode 100, episode 100 or 50. I'll start. Going like gritty detail on sex stories.
It's like, welcome to the night size of a Language of Bromance, where we get sexy and talk dirty.
And then I said, "Hey, that's not the gear shift, and where are my pants?"
Where's the door handle?
That'll be episode 101.
101.
But, yeah, that's what you're doing. You're cutting out vacuum hair and learning about gorillas. I have been wrapped up in a new show. It's my new bread and butter.
Okay, what show's that?
This is Sonic Highways. It's a show on HBO starring. It's a documentary series starring Dave Grohl and the Foo Fighters.
Okay.
Now, I went on at length a while ago about Sound City. Great documentary. If you haven't seen it, go see it. Great documentary about this music studio in Van Nuys, California, and Dave Grohl directs it and narrates it, and it's really, really good. So anyway, so the premise of this documentary series, it's kind of based off of Sound City in loosely. Dave Grohl realized that, music can be there are a lot of different influences that can come into somebody's music. And one of those influences, just simply enough, might be the location. Where you make music might influence the type of music that you make.
Okay. Makes sense.
So Dave Grohl decided to record a new album, a new Foo Fighters album. The name of the album is Sonic Highways, same as the documentary series. And to explain, I guess basically he says it's his way of telling the musical history of America. And what he's doing with this is each episode they go to a different city and record one song in that city.
Okay. How many cities did they hit up?
Let's see. I'm trying to think. I want to say six or seven.
Okay.
So if you go out, which the album's out, if you go and buy the album Sonic Highways, each song is recorded in a completely different location.
Did they do it like in different studios, or did they do it
Yes, completely different. Yeah, different studios. The studios usually had a history with it and things like that. But yeah, each song is recorded in a different studio in a different city, and it's and the lyrics are usually influenced by things in, you watch an episode, the first episode was about Chicago. So they interview a bunch of different musicians and talk about the history of Chicago and how blues and Muddy Waters and and all these blues artists and stuff like that came from there. And then and then the scene kind of changed and music kind of evolved, and different artists and stuff like that came from those cities, and what that city means to them, and how it the musical history of a given city, to sum it up.
Mm-hmm.
So the lyrics in the songs are usually things that at the end of each episode you hear the song that was recorded in that city.
So are the songs already written and everything before they get there?
No, he writes the songs when he's there.
That's ridiculous. How long is he spending at the city?
I'm gonna say a week or two, maybe a week, 10 days, maybe.
So in 10 days he writes a song that he's gonna put on an album.
Yeah,
that's insane to think somebody has the talent to do that.
I know. The man's so goddamn talented because he does it he fucking I hear this Foo Fighters song, the one that they recorded in Chicago. I want to say it's the name of it's Came From Nothing.
Yeah.
And I mean, I hear it on the radio all the fucking time.
That's the first single off that album, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's a really good tune.
Yeah, that's the one that they recorded in Chicago. And you hear the lyrics and he talks about the muddy water, washed in the muddy water, and and things like that. So he tries to pull he tries to let the music or the city influence his music. But I mean, it's still a Foo Fighters record. It still sounds like the Foo Fighters. So the first episode was Chicago. It was a great episode. You hear the song. It's a great song. The next city they go to is Washington, D.C.
Okay.
Which he's kind of from that area. He kind of grew up.
He's born in Baltimore, right?
I want to say he grew up around Baltimore, the Baltimore, D.C. area. So the whole it went into the history of the DC punk rock scene and the bands and stuff that were there, and then it totally flips and goes into how I'm trying to think of name the genre of music. You ever watched old 70s black movies where it's like that, like Dolomite or no, kind of like Starsky and Hutch, that kind of like that kind
Oh
of
yeah, yeah.
almost like funk, but like a bit more up tempo.
Like you think of like Country Boy kind of stuff, that kind of
Kind of,
funk.
yeah. And like that whole scene developed in Washington D.C. So then the song that they play from there has that kind of, they bring in artists from, that do that kind of stuff, and bring in like, guys from the punk rock scene back in the day, and they have the studio they recorded in. One of the guys was or the guy that owns the studio they recorded in DC was like this member of this, one of the biggest punk bands out of the DC area. And so it's like all this like this confluence of music and influence and history, and oh, it's so good. So good. So they've done Chicago, they've done Washington D.C., they did Nashville.
How was that?
Amazing.
Okay.
Like,
was it a like kind of country kind of sound, or what kind of music did he pull out of there?
it was, it was a Foo Fighters song. It's honestly, I would say that if the song came from nothing, if once that song kind of fades away, I would say that that song should be their next fucking single.
Okay.
Off of that album. Really good. Name of the song is called Congregation. If you want, fucking everybody check it out on YouTube, because it's a great fucking song. But that episode not only gave me a new respect for different country artists, mainly Zac Brown, the Zac Brown Band.
Oh, I think they're like one of the actual country groups that like write and record their own music.
They do. So fucking good.
Yeah, the problem I have with country music, and it's a lot of like that pop kind of stuff, and maybe it's just more the pop country music.
That's exactly what they talk about in this
Okay.
episode. They say that, that country has gone, especially in Nashville, that country has gone like this pop route. Dave Grohl, the reason he hooked up with Zac Brown, they actually record in Zac Brown's studio, which used to be name of the studio, Southern Ground. Before that used to be the studio for this independent record label called Monument Records, which was like the first independent record label on Music Row in Nashville. But I guess back in 2013, Zac Brown ran into Dave Grohl at the Grammys, and they exchanged numbers and whatever. And Zac Brown's like, I want to get Dave Grohl to come help us make a record.
Uh-huh. Was this before he was big, or was it about the time he was getting big?
Like I said, this was 2013.
Okay, so pretty recent.
Yeah, pretty recent. So Dave Grohl flies to Nashville and helps and produces a record with Zac Brown Band. Now he's sitting in the studio, and he's like, and they play a song, and he's like, I flew here, and I just want to say, like, before I had flown here and just sat here and just listened to you guys, I had never, ever listened to your music, ever.
Oh, wow.
I've never heard a single song you guys have done up until just 5 seconds ago. But I flew here, and I wanted to make a record with you guys. And the reason he said that was because he said he read an issue of Rolling Stone magazine where he said that said that before concerts, that the Zac Brown Band caters like a barbecue dinner for the audience.
Oh, nice.
And he's like, that's really cool. And like based off of just that, like that's like, I would love to meet this guy. So they go and they make this fucking record, and I mean, great, some great songs in there. But then they go to perform at the Country Music Awards.
Zac Brown Band, or
Zac Brown Band,
okay.
Like the Country Music Awards, I guess, was happening a few blocks from where they were. And so they call, and they're like, I can get Dave Grohl to play drums if we can do a song at the Country Music Awards. So they do a song that they had recorded the day before that no one had ever heard, like brand new song. Dave Grohl on drums, Zac Brown Band. It's called Day for the Dead.
Okay.
Another great fucking song. Amazing song. So good.
I'll have to check that out. Yeah, There was
YouTube it.
a 60 Minutes thing where it had the guy from The Voice. I can't remember what he's a country music star, but I can't remember what his name is. But he was going on like a little tangent. He's like, it doesn't matter if I don't write my own songs. I just want them to be good songs. And like, yeah, I guess that kind of makes sense. But what's frustrating about that is it's like, we've talked about that before, but those songs are like screen tested and, they're going through all these things that, okay, what's going to sell. And it always feels like music should be something that like, cause I can't do it. I can't create music. So I want somebody to put like their heart and soul into that kind of thing and like speak to me.
And that's one of the things they talk about, especially in Nashville with the country music scene. It's developed into Nashville doesn't like singer-songwriters.
I don't think anybody really does. I mean, it takes so much money to get them out there when it's just so much easier to find somebody who's kind of cute, give them the songs to sing and throw them on stage.
Find a good songwriter and find a good singer, but don't find a good singer-songwriter. Singer-songwriters, I guess like that's been kind of the history that singer-songwriters usually get kind of pushed out of the Nashville scene, and so they end up going someplace else. And I mean, like Willie Nelson, Johnny Cash, like those guys. Like Willie Nelson was in Nashville for years, and he looked fucking weird as shit because it was like short hair, like no beard, nothing. Like, and he's just and he's doing his songs and he's not getting any traction. So he leaves Nashville. He goes down to Austin, Texas, grows his fucking hair out, grows a fucking beard, and just, and plays his shit. And, like, people love it.
You know how much condoms cost back in my day? I don't know. Fuck, neither do I. We didn't use them. And that's kind of like you see that in today's like music. And it's probably easier now than it was back then because with all the social media and all the things that you can do with that, these bands can get their music out there with relatively little cost, except kind of recording it themselves. And even with materials that you have, you could probably record your own that make it sound decent enough that you could put it out there for the public. But like back then, if you didn't have those record companies pushing you, you just didn't have the traction.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't remember who it was, if it was Dave Grohl or who it was. It's like an older rock star, and they were kind of talking down about like The Voice and American Idol and all these. He's like, those kids don't want to be musicians. They want to be like pop stars, because if they wanted to be musicians, they'd be in their garage writing this music, recording it and like out on the road touring. Like these guys just want to get on stage, show they have some kind of singing talent, and then just blow up and be entertainers.
Oh, I totally agree.
Which is fine. I mean, if that's what you want to do, but it's one of those things that if you're able to create that music and write it from scratch and do your own thing, that just seems more powerful to me.
Right. I couldn't agree more. And one of the things that Dave Grohl's even said, there was some interview where he was talking about The Voice, and he said, somebody has a song, somebody like practices singing or whatever, and they go and they stand in line with 800 people to have 3 people tell them that they're not good enough. And he's like, can you imagine what the fuck that does to the collective psyche of anybody that wants to make music?
Oh God, like Nirvana, when they first started out, they were not musically inclined whatsoever.
Yeah, he's like get some. He's always saying like get some instruments, get into a space and sound like shit, and just keep sounding like shit, and just keep fucking going until you don't.
Yeah, you'll either figure it out or at least you'll have fun doing it.
Exactly. But one thing I didn't know about Zac Brown is Zac Brown, like his big fucking hit was the song Chicken Fried.
Okay.
Which you've heard the song, right?
I'm sure if I heard the tune, I would.
No, I like my chicken fried.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay. So he has this song Chicken Fried, and I think he's doing gigs down in like Panama City or something like that. And there's a band called the Trailer Park Boys that like the song and ask if they can do the song, if they can like record the song. And Zac Brown's like, I'm fine if you guys want to just record the song and put it on your record. He's like, but it's our song, so don't release it as a single. I don't want to hear it on the radio and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
Look,
Zach Brown was like, the first time I heard the song Chicken Fried on the radio, he's like, they got, this band gets a record deal. And the first time I hear Chicken Fried on the radio, it wasn't us singing it.
was this before he like was big, or was he already kind of?
Yeah. And so he calls his lawyer, and his lawyer's like, look, this is Nashville. This is big business. You could get blackballed for doing this.
For complaining about it?
For bitching about
God.
it. He's like, you could get, there could be some serious shit here, because the guy, I guess, that had signed this band, the Trailer Park Boys, was this guy that like had all these bands. Like he said this guy pretty much owned Nashville.
So he was the one with all the connections. It's like,
right.
If he said, yeah, sign this band, they're getting signed. Don't sign this band, then they're not getting signed.
Exactly.
That's so sleazy.
His lawyer's like, you could get blackballed for doing something like this. And I love in this interview. So he's like, I call up my lawyer, and he says, you could get blackballed. And I'm like, fuck that. They said they weren't going to do it, and they did. So they put out a cease and desist order.
Oh, sweet. So he stood his ground?
He stood his ground. He put out a cease and desist order. And he said, I was playing in a room in Nashville, and this guy came in, and somebody was like, dude, that guy has produced like 40 number one hits with Alan Jackson. Like, produced tons of, And he's like, I sat down and I was having a drink with him, and this guy's staring at his drink. And this other guy, the guy that ran Nashville, I think his name was Joe, and he said this guy was staring down his drink, and he's like, I just wanted to meet the guy that told Joe to fuck off.
Nice.
He's like, and that's how it started. He's like, that was the beginning.
So did Joe end up pushing them, or did he go through somebody else?
Well, I don't know how. I mean, I honestly don't know what all happened after that, but I mean, obviously it worked out well for him. He's got his own music studio. He's got, plus he just seems like a fucking cool fucking dude.
Well, that's it's interesting when you see like rock bands or anybody, once they get above a certain threshold, the studio pretty much runs their bands. So you get somebody like him who probably, it sounds like he has his own label. He's kind of doing his own thing. So he has the freedom to be creative like he wants to be creative. Not to harpen back on Kevin Smith, but that's kind of the same idea. He was making all these movies, but then he got into the studio system. Like, okay, you need to make this kind of movie, this kind of movie, this kind of movie.
Right.
And he hated it. And I'm sure that's what a lot of these artists do is like, 10 Years is a band I love. And that's the thing that happened to him. In their albums that they were making studios, they were making fun of the system. Like one of them is called Feeding the Wolves.
Yeah.
Because the record company's the wolves, and they're saying, okay, we need this kind of song, and this kind of song. And then maybe you can throw one or two that you want to in, but we'll probably cut those out because they won't fit.
Yeah, exactly.
And so you see these
record, especially when, like I said, they were talking about the Nashville scene. It's big business.
Oh yeah, that's they complain about like Spotify and file sharing, but it's not the artist I think that's getting hurt. It's the record company that's getting hurt. You can make
an argument for the artist too, but yeah, I would agree with you. The episode after Nashville, they did Austin, Texas.
Okay.
Which also was really cool because it kind of talked about like the big melting pot of different musical styles that are in that city. Like you can walk down the street in Austin and there's like a band playing blues, a band playing rock and roll, and a band playing country, and they're all right next door to each other.
Nice.
And
keep Austin weird, everybody.
Right. Yeah. And then the big thing was Austin City Limits, I think was the name of the show. Austin City Limits. Which my wife had apparently seen. I had never even heard of this. It was this cable, like this old television show way back in the day, like 60s, like late 60s, 70s, runs still today. That they just feature musical acts. It's just somebody up on a stage, and they just play, and they have cameras around, and they just kind of cut between cameras, and like all these people have played there, like Johnny Cash and Emmylou Harris and
is this kind of
like Fighters.
The
Foo Fighters, I guess, did a show there once.
Is this like the rock and roll country version of Soul Train?
Yeah, kind of.
Okay.
Rock and roll country blues version of Soul Train. Stevie Ray Vaughan did a lot. So they record on the old stage of this show. That's where they decide they were going to record their song. And they're walking through, and they see there's a piano that's sitting like kind of on, I think it's on like kind of a dolly, and it has a tarp over it and like some like shit on top, like, you know, like water bottles and shit like that. And Dave Grohl's like, you know, what's this piano doing here? He's like, oh, that's the old piano from the studio. And he's like, wait a minute, this thing's been in the studio the whole time? Who's played on this piano? And they're like, well, let's see, I think Fats Domino, Ray Charles, I think Stevie Wonder was on there. And then like he lists all these different, they're like, was Ray Charles on? Yeah, Ray Charles was on this. And then Dave Grohl, like, his mouth just fucking drops, and he's like, in the Smithsonian Museum, they have a bench that Archie Bunker sat on. And then you have this piano sitting with a tarp and shit on top of it.
With all of this rich musical history.
Right. He's like, bring this fucking piano out here. Put it on the stage. He's like, we're playing on this fucking piano.
It's like, it's not in tune. It's like, I don't fucking care. I can't even play piano.
Right?
That's awesome. It seems like he has a good, like, rich sense of history, too. I saw an interview with him. It's fairly recent where he was kind of talking about the whole, like, getting into, like, just, like, when them and Nirvana started out, like, you know, it was just kind of a group of guys just kind of, like, trying to figure stuff out as they went, and they kind of exploded right away.
Yeah.
And so they got real big, and his parents, I guess, were both musicians. I don't know if they taught music or what they did, but they were kind of musically inclined. And I guess his dad called him when they're touring. He's like, you know what, son? You know, I just want to let you know, have fun, but this isn't going to last. and I guess he's like, yeah, Dad, I know. He's like, you know, I'm just telling you, son, that this will not last. So be prepared. He's like, okay. And, you know, that was like 15, 20 years ago.
Bomb's going to fall out sometime, son.
Yeah.
Wait for the other shoe to drop. You got money squared away, don't you? A little, Dad. I'm all right.
Go home. He puts his, you know, boots up on Dad's table. He's like, so how's teaching class going, Dad? You know, teaching those kids how to play the flute and all that. Is that going well? Yeah.
I'm busy being a fucking rock star.
Yeah. Well, I got about 40,000 people waiting on me, so, you know, I'll see you in a little bit.
Dude, I'm serious. I have a serious man crush on fucking Dave Grohl because not only do I love just the kind of guy he is. He seems like somebody that doesn't take himself too seriously, you know, that likes to like have fun and fuck around and and not be pretentious. But I feel like we share a similar taste in music, that music is just music and it doesn't matter. Like, don't pigeonhole yourself into fucking like, I play only this or I play only that or I listen to only this or I listen to only that. Like, don't pigeonhole yourself. Like, just let it, you know, music is just music. And you like what you like and you don't like what you don't like. And it doesn't matter fucking don't let people fucking categorize what you like.
Yeah. You just, it's something that's supposed to speak to you. It's an art. It's like looking at, you know, a painting. It's like some people may not like it, but if it speaks to you, then, you know, that's you.
Exactly.
So I don't know why I forgot about this, but it just kind of came back to me, and you're probably going to be upset about this, but in 2004, during the presidential elections, was Al Gore running in 2004?
Al Gore was 2000. 2004 was John Kerry. I'm glad to see you're taking such an interest in you know, the people that run your life.
Well, I was like 18 at that point. You know what I know.
You could have voted.
So I went to the John Kerry rally. So two people that we know, JJ and Gene, were like, we're gonna go to this John Kerry rally. There's gonna be one of my favorite guys there ever. And I'm like, who? You know, and he's like, it's Dave Grohl. I'm like, I didn't even realize who Dave Grohl was at that point. But I went, and so I was basically like maybe 3 feet away from Dave Grohl as he played like 2 or 3 acoustic songs.
Oh, that's fuck. Did he do Everlong? I've heard Everlong acoustically.
Oh,
and
that's a beautiful song.
so fucking good.
It was because Bush was using, I think, Hero for some of his rallies, so that's why he went to Hannibal to do his. I think he just did Hero and maybe another one. I don't think it was Everlong, but Everlong is one of my favorite songs of theirs ever. It's a really good song.
It is. It is.
I love how their videos don't take themselves serious either.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Like they just don't. He just doesn't seem pretentious about the fact that he's this big fucking rock star. Like he just seems like it's not a thing, and I like someone like that. I like someone that doesn't make it a thing, for good or bad. He just is who he is, and he makes music, and he that's all he wants to do is just make music.
It's one of those things that like making music's what he does, and it does give him a great life, but it doesn't change the fact because he could probably really easily just like fall into like, okay, I'm not going to go on a plane to all these different cities to do this awesome idea because I want to. It's like, I'm just going to stay in LA, record 12 songs, put out an album, tour, 15 big arenas and call it good.
Right. He could do that and people would fucking buy it. Like, he could just, stay in his studio and make a fucking record and put it out and everybody be down for it. And he'd do his tour and make his money and he'd go home at the end of the day. And he could do that and people would totally be fine with that. But it seems like he's looking for something deeper. It looks like, he's trying, and not only is he looking for something deeper, but he's looking for something deeper and trying to share it. And I think that's admirable.
Do you think if he would have shared his love for music with those chimpanzees, he could have brought peace to Gombe and the Jets and the Sharks?
Maybe.
Bring it around! Woo!
I'm trying to think of a song that would relate, a Foo Fighters song that would relate to fucking chimpanzees.
Don't want to be your monkey wrench. Yes!
Oh! Bravo! Brava!
All right.
Fucking nailed it.
Is there anything else you want to add before I do some housekeeping?
No, not at all. I'm leaving it there. Like you can't get better.
All right. Well, if you guys want to follow us on Twitter, we're at Language of Bro. Actually, there's been a couple people who've hollered at us on Twitter. So there's a gentleman named Matthew Daniel Neff. He's a TESD fan 1. He's been hollering at us quite a bit. He gave us a good option for a draft that we may use.
Ooh.
And there's somebody that clarified one of our earlier episodes. It is Wade Harvey at WHarvey006.
I love the internet.
He said, in case you haven't heard, it's Joseph Campbell, not Carl Jung, for the Hero with 1,000 Faces. And he said he loved the pod.
Yes, that's very true. Joseph Campbell was the one that wrote the book of I can't. You just said it, and it's fucking left me already. But yeah, Joseph Campbell was when we talked about like the hero's journey and things like that. Carl Jung was the one that developed what they call the archetypes of psychology. But yes, Joseph Campbell.
So you can hit us up. We're at Language of Bro. Feel free to email us. We're at languageofbromance@gmail.com. Website's languageofbromance.com. You can like us on Facebook, leave us a comment, and subscribe on iTunes and Stitcher. And if there's always the pod nods over at soundslikeanearful.com/community/nods.
Yeah, I think it's dangerous if I start singing because I have this microphone in front of me, and if we're getting to a Foo Fighters song, like I feel the need to like fucking grab it,
stand up, and start singing.
One last day before. No, I can't do it.
Alrighty, well, that's all the bromance we have for this show. I'm Sean.
And I'm Richard.
And I say we eat the beaver.
Don't wanna be your monkey wrench.
Beautiful.